Now, regardless of how you feel about who actually made the college football playoff, we would all be lying to ourselves if we said we weren't excited about seeing an Alabama and Michigan matchup, especially with the way the teams are built in a little bit different ways this year. Now, there are a ton of different factors that are going to go into this game in determining who wins. It's going to come down to 3 to 5 plays, and we're all going to pick out 3 that we think are going to be the most important. But in my opinion, there's 2 that will happen on the field that are very important, and 1 that is happening right now off the field. The first on the field is the quarterback run game. Obviously, when you add a quarterback that can run, it brings a different element that the defense has to defend. There's a reason that Georgia struggled defensively with stopping teams where the quarterback could run. There's a reason that Alabama has struggled defensively when facing teams that have a quarterback that can run. And in this game, with J.J. McCarthy and Jalen Milroe, as tight as that line of scrimmage is going to be, being able to get a hat on a hat schematically and being able to have the quarterback be not only a decent runner, but an effective runner and a powerful runner in the red zone could be the difference. We're going to continue to talk about that. The second major factor on the field that I look at is not only penalties, but timely penalties. Sometimes it's not about you getting penalized, it's when you get penalized. We've seen multiple, and I'm talking about probably the most that we've ever seen from a Nick Saban coach team, touchdowns called back for Alabama, including in the Iron Bowl, because of penalties. You cannot get a 5-yard false start on 3rd and 1 in this game. You cannot put yourself off schedule or behind the chains in this game, regardless of what side you're on, Michigan or Alabama. But the third, and I think the most important, and this really falls to Michigan, is do those players, I'm not talking about the fans, do the players actually truly believe that they can beat Alabama? Because this is the same core that we saw 2 years ago get run out of the gym by a fantastic Georgia team. This is the same core that we saw last year lose to TCU because, in my opinion, they were looking over their shoulder wondering if they were going to get a matchup with Georgia in the national championship game again. Now, I know Georgia's not in this Final Four, but a big dog in the SEC is, and that's Alabama. The buildup for Michigan has always led to this point. You are going to have to get through an SEC team to win the whole thing. So we talk about guys preparing. Are you preparing to win? Or are you preparing to hope to win? Michigan does not have a chance in this game if they don't believe that they are the superior team. Because when you play a team like Alabama, and coming from an Auburn perspective, I can speak on this the best. If you fear them, they will bury you. If you do not believe when you walk into that fight that you're strong enough to knock them out, they will embarrass you. Because those dudes in Tuscaloosa, they believe. Because a national championship is the standard. It's been done before recently. It is what is expected of them, and they haven't won one in a while. So if you're a Michigan player, whether you're in the huddle at practice, whether you're in the locker room, whether you're walking around campus, it's not about whether you believe in front of your teammates. It's when you lay your head down on the pillow at night. Do you truly believe you can beat Nick Saban and the Crimson Tide? Yep. And I got a former Michigan Wolverine on my left here, David Cohn, former quarterback, former Western State Colorado wide receiver, Blaine Crane on my right. And you know, it's something that I don't think enough people are going to talk about. You look at the on-the-field matchup. We've broken this down. We'll continue to break it down. We can talk about the quarterback's ability to improvise outside of the pocket. We can talk about, getting into 2nd and 5, getting into 2nd and 3s, getting into 3rd and 2s, turnovers, field position, and all that's great. But David, can Michigan get over this hump?
I think you're spot on 100% because on paper, I don't see this as a matchup nightmare for Michigan. I mean, on paper, I see Jim Harbaugh with the best roster that he's had. I see him with the best quarterback that he's had, who's also a junior. I think Michigan should embrace this challenge. I mean, Ric Flair has come over to the Go Blue camp now and been supporting Jim Harbaugh in Michigan all season. What do you say? If you want to be the man, you got to beat the man. Sure. And it does feel like that Georgia team 2 years ago when they lost that SEC championship game to Alabama. And we said, well, here we go again. Like, there's just a trust factor when it comes to Alabama. Now, Georgia went on and beat Alabama in that national championship, then won another national championship. So, of course, it can be done. The 3 factors that I have right here are, just like you hit on, how do you rush Jalen Milroe? Right? This isn't just a Michigan thing. This is the question we ask for every single team that has played Alabama, especially in the back half of the season, ever since they've gotten that quarterback-designed run game going a little more. But we've seen teams put a quarterback spy on him. We've seen teams go double spy on him.
Yeah.
Georgia a little bit in the SEC championship game. Auburn rushed 2, dropped 9. I mean, granted, that was a 4th and 31 on the last play of the game, but Jalen Monroe has proven if you don't rush anybody and you just put spies in front of him to contain him, he will sit in the pocket and he can pick you apart, especially in the latter half of this season as he's continued to progress. To me, you have to rush him internally and not over-rush him on the exterior, because if you over-rush him, he's going to find these lanes, and if he does find these running lanes, it's going to just be a long day for Michigan. So, how does that work out? And then to offset Michigan's pass rush, he needs to be accurate in the intermediate game, and then also how will Tommy Rees call those quarterback design runs, Q power, Q draw, all the things we've talked about all season. On Alabama's side, can they force J.J. McCarthy to turn the football over? He has proven he'll throw the football right to your defenders for easy interceptions, but his arm strength is so incredible this year that a lot of times he gets away with those throws with lesser competition. I think J.J. McCarthy needs to play his best football game. This isn't like one of those Big Ten matchups late in the season where you can go on the road to Penn State and it's really cold and you can just dominate in the run game. I don't see either team being able to just have sustained drives, drive after drive, play after play in the run game. Both quarterbacks are going to have to make plays. And then the last one to me is how involved will Colston, Loveland, and the Michigan tight ends be? The All-American list just came out. Alabama has 3 on defense, 2 in the secondary. Kool-Aid McKinstry, Terrion Arnold. As great as Roman Wilson and some of these Michigan receivers are, they're going to have a tough time separating. I think Michigan can offset that with the tight end game, especially someone as talented as Colston Loveland. We've seen him be effective in the seam game, on the stick game, things like that. Out and up, branch knot, all those sort of concepts that you look for with a great tight end. Michigan's going to need that, plus an effective run game, plus J.J. McCarthy's best game.
Yeah, a couple things on what you said. I think one way to rush Jalen Monroe is to keep him off the field. I'm interested to see how Michigan plays the tempo game. When it comes to defending him, I think if you throw one thing at him, whether that's pressuring him more than you're not, or whether you're sitting back more than you're not, you're allowing him time to adjust. I think the way you contain Jalen Monroe, because I don't think you're going to stop him totally, the way you contain him is by giving him different looks, right? Overwhelming him with different pre-snap movements, the way the safeties are spinning mid-play, rushing him, not rushing him, bluffing, showing you're going to bluff, and just mixing it up, giving him a mixed bag, because I think that slows him down a half step. Because if he's operating knowing what you're giving him, he can play at full speed.
Auburn did that in the second half.
Auburn did that. Speaking about skin in the game, skin's the biggest organ in the body, right? It's the largest organ in your game. So you got to take care of it. Whether male or female, our friends over at Genucel Skincare, they do an incredible job. They dropped the bag on us. Christmas came early this year. They sent down a ton of products. We got to meet with their team as well. Just great people. It's a great product. Everyone in our office loves it. PJ, we take it home. My wife loves it as well. And right now, every order today can be instantly upgraded to free express shipping. They have their most popular package at a special discount just for our listeners at genucel.com/booster. You get this great discount. Like I said, every order today is instantly upgraded to free express shipping. That's genucel.com/booster today. So whether you got fine lines, you got a sagging jawline, you've got skin redness, forehead wrinkles, it takes care of all of it, male or female, and it is a heck of a gift. So head over to Genucel. Use that promo code as well. We really appreciate the Booster Club selling them out. Seems like every time we bring them on, they sell them out. And please do, because it's a great product run by great people. Blaine, when we talk about the belief thing, believing is not, we went into this game, we're up 7-0, it's going good, we can win. It's what happens when you go out there and you're up 7-0, but they answer right back. Yeah. What happens if you go out there and you're down 7-0? People always ask, how can Auburn always play Alabama close when Alabama is obviously the superior team? It's because Auburn is not afraid of them because we live with them. You cannot be afraid of these guys going into the game, and they've given you a lot to be afraid of. Right? Nick Saban in Alabama, when they walk in, it's a little bit of a different flavor of ice cream than and George is in the same boat, right? Yeah. So when you look at this matchup, what kind of stands out to you?
Well, Nick Saban's shadow looms a long way on a football field. And college football sits behind it. But my keys, and I agree with all the points you brought up, the first thing I'm looking at for Michigan, I'm going to look at linebacker play. We go back to the Georgia-Alabama game. Georgia's linebackers are young, and all the motion and all the eye candy that Alabama does in the backfield with Milroe, it matters. So I'm looking at Michael Burton. I'm looking at Colston. I believe both are older guys. Can they be disciplined and make the plays they have to make at the linebacker position? I know rushing Jalen Milroe is always something you worry about, but another thing adding that, how you rush him is how you get him onto the ground. No one has been able to tackle this guy yet, realistically, especially in the backfield. I think Georgia did somewhat of a pretty good job of it, but you see what he can do in space. The next thing I flip to the other side is Alabama, and it's kind of on a different little slate here. I think you have to have Michigan respect your run game. I really do. I think you have to at least make Michigan respect your run game because it opens up things for Milroe in the backfield when it comes to passing. You find one-on-one coverages with your big playmakers and Isaiah Bond and Burton. So if you can do that, I'm not saying you have to run the ball 30 times, but you need to at least have over 100 yards rushing in this game between your running backs and your quarterback. Then Michigan, the final thing is, can you stop big plays and can you hit big plays? It is tough to go 13, 14, 15 plays against this Alabama defense. You saw Georgia somewhat do it a little bit, and that's one of the best offensive lines in the nation. It's tough to push these guys 3 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards, like we're seeing Michigan usually do. It's a tough thing to do. So can you limit big plays? Can you hit big plays? That's my keys to this football game.
Yeah, and you brought up J.J. McCarthy. I think there's such a fine balance between being aggressive enough to hit big plays against Alabama, but not forcing it.
Yes.
Knowing when to say when. There's been times here recently where he's forced it because I think he thinks he can get away with it.
Yeah.
You can't go into this Alabama game if you're J.J. McCarthy and say, oh my God, I'm so scared to turn the ball over that I'm not going to take any chances. I'm not going to push the ball down the field. I'm not going to try and make the great throws. But in saying that, sometimes it's good to throw the check down. Sometimes it's good to throw the ball away. Sometimes, you know what, escaping and getting 3 yards to get in 2nd and 7 instead of trying to fit it in that window in between the safety and the corner when you really don't have it. That's what I think this game's going to come down to.
I agree.
It's such a small margin for error, David.
I agree with you. And I think with all that's gone on off the field with this Michigan team, I do think that they're going to go in fairly fearless. J.J. McCarthy's not going to go in scared. Certainly, Sharon Moore, the offensive coordinator, and Jim Harbaugh, they aren't going to go in scared to let J.J. McCarthy go have big moments and have a chance to have a big game, which I think he's going to need. Here's the biggest thing from my perspective as someone who's obviously followed this program very closely since I played there. Michigan has had to invest so much time and energy into beating the Buckeyes these last 3 years. Because after 8 straight losses, you can't participate in, forget the college football playoff, you can't even go be in the conference championship unless you figure out a way to beat the Buckeyes, who had been the gold standard. Well, they finally did that 2 years ago, and Georgia was coming off a loss in the SEC championship game where they thought they could beat Alabama. That month-long leadoff, we should have just seen it coming. Like, Georgia was unbeatable that year. Last year, Michigan figures out a way to beat the Buckeyes again. They match up. They get the easiest matchup in TCU. I think they looked ahead of them, and plus TCU was better than we gave them credit for. Had a lot of playmakers who are playing in the NFL now. You turn around, all of a sudden you lost the football game, and they go play in the national championship. Now's the year where it's like, okay, we focus so much attention on beating them. This is 3 years in a row now. Now the next hump is what you're talking about, the Alabamas or the Georgias or the SEC, whoever they throw at us, right? It's time to deliver in the postseason. I think Michigan is very well aware of that.
Well, I think Ohio State's a false summit now for Michigan. That's not getting to the top anymore, like you brought up. I think it's a national championship now. And that's the way Alabama views it. That's the way Georgia views it. And I think that's, you got over the Ohio State hump because you believed you were going to get over the Ohio State hump. Now when you go in that game, the question to me is not, is Michigan going to win? It's how are they going to win? Or how is Ohio State going to lose it? The last thing, and we want to know what you think. The phone line is going to open up 7:15 a.m. Central. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. If you donate in the chat, we ask that question first, especially if it's over $5. David, I just really hope that Michigan, and I don't think it will be, I really hope Michigan's playing, because I want a great game. That's what I want. If we're going to leave Florida State out, damn it, we better have a really good game. I hope Michigan doesn't go in there trying to wait Alabama out, because I don't think they can do it. If they try and play close to the vest, and it may be close for a while, but eventually Jalen Milroe is going to get you. They're going to hit a couple big plays. Whether it's Jermaine Burton down the field, whether it's Bond down the field, whether it's Jalen Milroe taking off, whether it's the run game soften you up, whether it's an RPO, Alabama's going to hit a big play eventually. I just don't think Michigan go in there and say, we're going to pound Blake Corum only in between the C gaps, the C and A gaps. We're going to protect J.J. McCarthy. You got to let it ride now. You're in year 3 with J.J. McCarthy.
True.
You've got to let And again, it's that balance, just like a quarterback from a play calling standpoint, between letting the big dog eat and not being stupid. There is a balance in that. I just hope that Michigan goes into this game, because I know Alabama will. Tommy Rees, I think, is going to go in this thing aggressive. I think they're going to move Jalen Milroe a lot. I think they're going to watch the Maryland tape with Little Tua, what they did against Michigan, and take a little bit away from that, which I think that's kind of a decent barometer, because Michigan hadn't faced a lot of guys that can do what Little Tua and Jalen can do. I just hope Michigan goes into it with an aggressive mindset offense.
I hope so too. There's also a balance between waiting an opponent out and not abandoning the run game.
That's true.
I don't think Michigan will abandon the run game. Yes, you may see a 3 and out or a couple 3 and outs, but you can't have a bunch of them, right? Like, and Michigan certainly is not going to abandon the run game down the stretch.
And I'm not saying that.
We've seen teams be able to run on Alabama.
We have.
We have seen it this year. Like, even if Alabama, I know Alabama's in the playoffs, but this is one of Alabama's greatest.
Well, what teams have been able to run against Alabama? It's the same ones that can run against Georgia. It's the teams with quarterbacks that can run. When Kentucky wants to sit there and run power at you the whole game in between the box with no quarterback threat, I'm not worried about that.
And that
just like I wasn't worried about
more
Penn
like
State.
that than they are Auburn, right? Like, Auburn does so much laterally.
For sure. And you have a quarterback that can run.
Is Michigan going to do that? That's my question. Or are they just going to try and play bully ball? Which, look, again, this is one of the least elite Alabama teams that we've seen make the playoff. Like you said, keyword still being elite.
Yeah.
Maybe Michigan thinks like, no, this is actually our time to go play bully ball with Alabama. Again, it's a dangerous strategy because very few beat them at that. The teams that beat them are the ones with elite quarterbacks, Deshaun Watson, like the Trevor Lawrence types, Joe Burrow types. So you got to unleash J.J. McCarthy.
Well, Michigan has allowed teams to beat themselves before Michigan decided to beat them. I'm very interested in this game with Alabama because we've seen Alabama beat themselves before. So that's what I'm saying. It's a mix. How are the penalties going? What's the turnover situation? So we want to know what you think. Should be very, very interesting. There's a lot of great bets out there, a lot of great props. Hey, YouTube, thanks for stopping by. Do us a favor. Make sure you subscribe. If you haven't yet, go check out Lady Ballers, #1 streaming movie in America. Unbelievably overwhelmed by the response. You can find that at Daily Wire Plus. Go subscribe. Check it out.